entire program. All right, so this is about our 5th Echo edition, where we talk to farmers, we talk to pet owners, we talk to veterinarians, we talk to clinical students, and it's been an amazing time. Today is going to be the first where we're having a discussion that concerns everybody or all the 55 countries we have in Africa. I'm just going to be quickly taking us through our partners. We, of course, having Farmalert hosting the first Animal Health Echo with the help of MDOC, who originally is the brain behind the Tekla idea. Then we also have partners like Boringa England, having a major interest in what we're doing, making more health. And of course, we have Ashoka. I'm an Ashoka fellow, proud Ashoka fellow, and I'm always happy to say it anywhere I am. Today, I'll just take us through the activity. I'll be taking the introduction and a brief about Farmalert. We have a wonderful, so again, about MDOC. MDOC, it's more like the mother hen in this place, holding our hands, ensuring that we get it right. Most of the time, they will be talking about MDOC. We also have the pre-quiz assessment to just be sure and test our knowledge before the event kicks off. Then we have Mandisa from South Africa taking us through the didactic presentation. We have very renowned panelists that will equally serve together with Mandisa as hub experts. I will be introducing them shortly. Then we will now go into an intense 40 minutes discussion, which will be highly very participatory. And then, of course, at the end of the day, we have the summary by our experts. Then we'll have the post quiz, and of course, the announcement, and the next step will follow. So just an overview, ECHO model, we are operating with 4 pillars using video conference technology to leverage the scarce animal health resources that we have. We have specialists like Mandisa, who is an economist and a policy analyst, sharing best practice with colleagues like us, just to ensure that the knowledge she has and other experts in the room today have is being shared and distributed evenly. We also emphasize case-based learning using practical examples. For this ECHO, Africa is our case study. And then we, of course, monitor the outcome of the events just to help us improve on our deliverables. You should please note that the Project Tekla leverages on the ECHO model, as I've said initially. We collect registration, participation, question and answer, your chat, and also you should know that they will be kept confidential and they will be handled with every sense of responsibility. This data will be used for just our reports and reports only. And also please note that the session will be recorded and we will be sharing the PDF version at the end of the session. Please note, if you're comfortable with it, that your camera should be on. And then I will be able to unmute anyone who needs to speak when the time comes. You should also raise your hands just in case you want to say something or catch our attention. And more importantly, the chat function is for every one of us to use to us. We think the animal health sector in Africa is slightly below what is expected. And then what we do here, democratizing knowledge, connecting veterinarians and paraprofessionals, and of course, farmers and pet owners, will help us share this knowledge and improve our activities across the African continent. If you will now, I want to just leave the stage for another 2 minutes for MDOC to tell us more about Project Tekla and what MDOC is doing with the Animal Health ECHO. Adora, over to you.
Sure. Thank you so much, Dr. Kaide. How is everyone doing? Lovely to have us here. Just before I go ahead, we would like you to please rename, you can rename yourself on the call, because we see like 4 Kayode Femis. I don't think that name is that common. So please rename yourself on Zoom. Thank you very much. Hello, everyone. My name is Adora. I'm a senior manager with MDoc. MDoc is a digital health social enterprise that optimizes the end-to-end self-care support for people with regular and chronic health needs. And one of the key things that we do is contribute to quality of care and contribute to capacity building. And so we have leveraged the ECHO model for a number of years and have then extended that to collaborate with wonderful organizations such as Farmalert in Nigeria, CDMS, Jacaranda Maternity in Kenya, and we're looking to partner with many more companies across Africa. TECLA, as it stands, is an acronym for Teleeducation for Clinicians and Leaders in Africa. It's important that as we educate and build capacity for healthcare workers who are focused on animal health, on human health, we are also doing the same with collaborating with Farmalert to improve capacity for leaders, mid-level managers, and professionals around animal health, because that is one that hasn't been given as much focus as human health. So we're excited to be part of this journey. We look forward to having you join many more of the sessions that we'll be holding this year. And towards the end, we'll ask you to also suggest topics that you want to learn so that we can engage the experts that can bring the knowledge. Thank you for all the experts on the call. Happy to be here and looking forward to learning more. Over to you, Kayode.
All right, so thank you, MDoc. Thank you for introducing Project TECLA to us. And of course, as you've seen, we've caught the fire and we're running with it. So what we want to do now is to have the IT support just launch a very quick quiz just to assess our knowledge on what you know about AfCFTA, the agreement that has been in effect since 2019. So the questions are easy in code, right? But it's something you can invariably just answer. But don't be rest assured that we're not marking the script. What we just want to do is to test your knowledge on the topic we're about to share. And we're going to be also throwing up the same questions at the end of the event, just to be sure you've grasped the necessary knowledge or information you need to grab. So you can go ahead now. The pre-quiz are up. Just click on what you think the answers are, and then let's get going. So we have just basically 3 minutes to do this. So kindly go ahead and fill the pre-quiz that we have and is being shared. So 3 minutes. So it's not a lecturer-student situation. We're just only looking at how best we can assess the knowledge before the main presentation, and after which we will also assess your knowledge after the presentation, just to be sure that you're listening and you're grabbing the needed information that we intend to share. Your scores will not be public. If you think that will be very comforting. So go ahead. We have just about 2 minutes to round up the pre-quiz. Just about 5%, 7% have answered the pre-quiz. We want more. We want a situation where over 60 or 70% participate in the pre-quiz. They are easy, so I think. But again, feel free to just pick an option. Results won't be public. Back then, in our days in school, people paste results in public square. This will not be pasted in public square. This is just for us to assess your knowledge about the topic we want to share just right before we make the presentation. And if this will be comforting, everybody will also have an opportunity to hear what the exact answers are. as we proceed in the class, if you allow me to put it that way. So we have just 12%. I think we can do more. Go ahead, fill the pre-quiz. We have just about a minute, and we want you to help us fill it out. Let's get the information we need just to assess, as I said initially, your knowledge and to see what you know about what we will extensively discuss in today's ECHO. Thank you. We have 14%. I think we can do more. I think we can do more. We barely have just another 30 seconds. Please, we can do more. Go ahead, fill in. All right. Are you filling in the questions? Or they are tough questions? If they are tough questions, not a problem. We are going to all be answering the questions together at the end of the presentation, and then of course the panel discussion. So we are still at 14. What do I do to ensure that this gets up to at least 20? So let's leave out, Adora, do you have any idea? What should we do?
Sure. I think how many? We have 5 questions.
Yes,
so I don't think we should overthink it. Go with what you feel the best possible response is. Like Dr. Kayode said, this is not going to be played against you. It's just to access the knowledge. We will then go into the didactic, and after which we will do a post quiz. And by then we know that all of us would have gotten more information and more knowledge. And if you don't have the quiz pop on your system, click on the post tab and it should pop up. So click on the post tab and it will pop up if it's not already up on your screen. If you're using a mobile device, you might have to scroll down to be able to access the quiz, unlike those who are using their laptops.
Adora, I just hope the fault isn't coming from my end, but because I
can see the quiz.
Okay.
I can see the quiz, and some people have answered, so I'm sure a number of people can see the quiz. So please go ahead, just 5 questions as quickly as you can. Looking through the chat, is anyone? Yes, okay. Click on the polls. Has anyone clicked on the polls? Can anyone please notify us in the chat if you can still see the quiz? Oh, you can't see the quiz. I see Mohammed says he can't see the quiz. Okay.
All right, so that was what I was like, I shared my own link from my email, and probably that's the reason why.
Sure.
They're seeing my screen.
Okay.
Right, so I hope IT will be able to help us rectify
this. So IT would help us rectify it. So we'll launch the quiz again. So let me relaunch the poll, okay?
All right.
So apologies to those who have already responded. Please go ahead and take the quiz now. I believe it should be on everyone's screen now. It's up now. Okay, yes, so I see people answering. Okay, apologies to those who have to take it twice. I guess when you have the opportunity to take a quiz 2 times, you now change your answers. So please go ahead and take the quiz. It's off again. Right, is this timed? Did you time it, Dr. Femi?
Okay, so I will need to check that. But again, while IT support gets to check that, I think we can just go ahead. Since we have the opportunity to answer this again at the end of the panel session. Thank you so much, Dora. Do you mind?
Sure.
All right, so we can just end the quiz and then let's go into the presentation that we have for today. So I want to quickly just introduce our hub expert. The first being, so can you just stop the quiz?
It's ended already.
Okay, all right. So I still have it on my screen. All right, fantastic. So we have our first hub expert, Mandisa Zuba. I hope I'm not murdering the name, but she's from South Africa, a seasoned economist and policy analyst and an independent consultant with considerable expertise in Africa. Of course, that's why she's here. Her work has spanned much of Africa and much of Asia with a focus on agricultural, renewable energy, and biotechnology. Right? She specializes in identifying trends, monitoring policy changes, forecasting policymakers' action, and supporting operations in generating value by having a thorough grasp of how the African countries tend to deviate. So that's Mandisa. We have Professor Fashina Folorunsho, who is currently the country team lead in Kenya for the Emergency Center for Transboundary Disease, Animal Diseases for the FAO. He's a professor, extraordinary professor of infectious disease and epidemiology, University of Pretoria, South Africa. And of course, he aims in promoting One Health and transform the livestock industry by reducing the burden of zoonosis through the global and regional capacity development in the veterinary profession. Professor Fashina, we want to welcome you on board. We also have Dr. Nick Mwankwa, who is a very senior veterinarian and holds a PhD degree in veterinary microbiology from the University of Nsukka. He has more than 26 years working experience in the field of animal disease control at both national and international levels. More importantly, he was appointed the director of AU PAMVAC. PAMVAC is the organization that, of course, mandates and certify all African vaccines, both the ones produced locally and the ones imported for African use. And of course, that has a lot to say around the disease control that we have. But currently, he is the acting director for AU IVA. Dr. Nick Mwakwa, you're very welcome to today's panel. Then, of course, we have somebody from BI, Dr. Moses Arokoyo, who is the regional sales manager for BI Animal Health, Sub-Saharan Africa. He has been a mentor and an inspiration to a lot of veterinarians in Nigeria, and I believe also across Africa. Currently, he's serving as a state chairman of one of the strongest chapter of the Nigerian Veterinary Medical Association. He's into human capital and leadership development and has helped inspire a lot of young veterinarians. Trust me, you will believe that we have a very strong and experienced panel today. And of course, that will show up in our panel discussion. So what we want to do now is to take the didactic presentation from Mandisa Zuba, the economist that we have, and of course, the policy analyst. She is going to use her experience to take us through a 15 minutes lecture on what the AfCFTA agreement is all about, and of course, the chains and economic value of the agreement and the implication of that on animal health. So if you will, I want you to help me welcome Mandisa Zuba.
Thank you, Dr. Femi. So I just want to highlight two things. Firstly, I am operating on a gadget on, as I've mentioned earlier on, I have load shedding. So am I audible?
Yes, I think you're audible. We can hear you.
Even with the rest of the audience, am I audible?
Yes, we can hear you.
All right, that's perfect. Then the second request would be for me to actually switch off my camera. I think it will best when I'm presenting. I've seen that it's it's a struggle when I present with my camera on. So allow me to do that. Is it fine?
Yes, please go ahead if you're comfortable with that.
All right. Thank you so much. So looking at the first slide, and thank you, Dr. Femi, just to give the, the detailed introduction. I want to assume that most of us that are here, we know what the African Continental Free Trade Area is. At the same time, I want to assume that we have members in the call that were not familiar with it. But for those who are not familiar with it, I just want to give a brief idea of what this free trade agreement is. It's an aim just to create a single market in the African continent, for goods and services. And the aim is just to deepen the economic integration in the continent. So what the trade area aims at is that it wants to have a very large combined gross domestic product. And its aim is to have it just at 3.4 trillion US dollars, and at the same time try to achieve full potential, and that obviously depends on the policy reforms that each country member will actually facilitate and have. So should this free trade actually come into force, and should we abide as each African state, the World Bank has had its estimates, and the estimates are as follows: that the new market, which is obviously created under the free trade, is expected to be as large as 1.3 billion people across the continent. And as I've mentioned, with the combined GDP of 3.4 trillion US dollars. So what this means is that this really has a potential of lifting up a lot of Africans out of extreme poverty. And when I say extreme poverty, it means 30 million Africans out of extreme poverty. But at the same time, achieving this full potential depends on significant policy reforms and trade facilitations measures across African nations. So it is worth noting that in the medium to long term, the benefits of the free trade area are quite clear. But in the short term, some countries may actually experience revenue loss, which obviously might actually affect their budget. And this is purely because some economies are highly dependent on tariffs, tariff revenues, which is something that I'll actually get into in the next slide. So why is this actually trade area quite important? It is important because, and it's important for us going forward as Africans to change our mindsets when we look at tariffs. Yes, we do highly depend on tariff revenues, but if you change our mindsets when it comes to tariff revenue, and we look at tariffs not only as a revenue generating tool, but as a tool for industrial development, to foster the development of the productive sectors, and also, to protect infant industries when it comes to dumping. Which takes me to the next agreement. We've got smaller economies which obviously see the benefits. Then how are we getting the benefits if we are one of the largest economies in the African continent? But if you see that from the graph, intertrade growth becomes quite strong in certain regions before trade. So you see that Central and Eastern Africa are quite dominant before the implementation of the free trade. But as you see now, after the trade has been implemented, and when I say being implemented, I mean in the medium and long term, you see that growth in intra-African trade is quite strong in West and Eastern Africa, and then obviously followed by Southern, Northern, and Eastern region. So what this means is that for the continent in general is that the free trade will raise intra-African trade by up to 25%. So that translates into, I think, between 50 and 70 billion US dollars by 2040. And this is just after the free trade has been implemented. So as much as I have displayed the major conditions for the free trade area to be successful for the African continent, it is also quite worth noting that country readiness is extremely important for each African state to enjoy the benefit of this trade area. For instance, countries need to build efficient institutional architecture to avoid any economies to be left behind or any industries to be left behind. So therefore, individual economies under the agreement, who have signed the agreement, should introduce policies that address the concerns of things such as labor unions, encourage healthy competition within local business, to ensure that dumping is not there. Also to ensure strict adherence to waste disposal, and also to protect intellectual property rights, which is quite important, more especially now with the Russia and Ukraine war, which China at this point is, placing a large attention towards. But it's a topic for another day. Also, just the last factor is that regional integration should look into existing dilemmas at this point. So we have, our SADC, we've got our ECOWAS, but are they really performing? If they're not performing, how then do we perform at the continental level? So we need to look at dilemmas that we are currently facing, fix them, learn from them, and then advance into a continental level. Next slide, please. Oh, okay, so I think we went too forward. Yeah, that's the one. So if we have to look at livestock, and so I chose West Africa in this particular presentation when it comes to livestock challenges, movement, and sales, purely because livestock is quite huge in the region, and and it's quite predominant. So if one looks at many emerging African markets, the pattern is that these are usually traditional economies that rely on farming for employment. So this could be small family farms, usually who struggle to compete with large agribusinesses in high-income African countries. So this could be South Africa, Egypt, Kenya, Ethiopia, just to name a few. So as a result, they may actually lose their farm, which obviously then leads to high employment and poverty. So therefore, as a solution, with the presence of the free trade area, the aim is to reduce inequality in the long run, as I've mentioned earlier on. Yes, indeed, the results from the trade area won't be quite immediate, but the right implementation processes and policies, we can definitely and confidently say that such challenges will tend to be reduced in the medium and long run. So West Africa has, is quite predominant when it comes to livestock. So the attention and the eyes are there. So how then do we, if we're looking at livestock and the investment in livestock, then how do we fix it in West Africa, or maybe West Africa and in the whole Sahel region? And just to conclude with the last slide. Oh, I'm seeing at the chat that some people not having actually access to my voice. I'm sorry about that. So with the last slide, what I've included is then how do we move forward, you know, with this free trade. And yes, we see the benefits, we see everything, but then how do we move forward without actually having to have this, how can I put this, us having a fantasy of what this free trade area might mean without the right, you know, conduct and policies. So in terms of just looking forward with the current status of the free trade area, we can actually safely conclude that successful agribusiness investments, which obviously includes livestock, can in turn stimulate the agricultural growth through the provision of new markets and the development of a vibrant input supply sector. So the transformation of agriculture in Africa at that point is quite urgent. So agricultural transformation is needed on the African continent, all along the African or the agricultural value chain. For instance, once agricultural production has reached high level of reliability and quality, it means that value added can be gained through the processing of the agricultural commodities, including the livestock. So this is quite important because developing the broad agricultural sector is also key to Africa's future in generating jobs, increasing incomes, and most importantly, ensuring food security. So the free trade area has the potential to actually contribute towards agricultural transformation, you know, and this will be done through an increased interaction of African farmers, wider markets for both farm inputs and agricultural products, and unified efforts just to improve the value chains across the whole African continent. So the development of efficient livestock infrastructure in West Africa, which I've mentioned before, should contribute to the whole regional food security and economic growth. And at the same time, improve farmer income and obviously encourage trade. And just lastly, so if you think about it, at the same time, inadequate capital and access to credit does actually serve as a barrier when it comes to the market for smallholder traders who are unable to gain access into cross-border livestock trade. So in closing, I just want to say that my suggestion has been that making credit readily available to livestock traders will actually definitely decrease the level of market concentration in the cross-border segments, and in turn, lower any overall marketing cost. And that concludes my presentation for today. Thank you so much.
All right, so thank you so much, Mandisa, for maybe slightly brief, but a well-detailed and well-thought-out presentation. If you don't mind, I want to just stop sharing my screen. So I believe we have representative of various African continent here. And I want to talk from the Nigerian perspective, right? Because this is an all-important topic. I'm going to be giving Professor Fashino briefly 3 minutes to react to the presentation from his own lens. I will also give Dr. Nick, the acting director, AUIBA, another 3 minutes to react to the presentation from his own lens. And then, of course, Dr. Moses Arukoya. Once we're done with that, I will now throw up a few questions for us to answer. But one of the first quick things that comes to mind is just to state that Nigeria, we've not been able to build a proper infrastructure to manage the spread of disease. Right. So we have outbreaks upon outbreaks. I think our animal health system or infrastructure is still not that developed. Having all this background, you now want to open the entire African continent to do business together. In as much as the opportunity is exciting, the fear is also there. And those are the critical issues I want us to tackle. What are the opportunities? What are the fears? What are the concerns? What can we do as stakeholders in the industry to ensure that it doesn't backfire on us? So that's going to be the heart of the discussion, and I want everybody to be prepared for that. But before we get into that, Professor Fashina, you have been at the helm of affairs both in Tanzania and in Kenya. You also have a brief of stay in South Africa. And of course, you are our own, having your DVM in Nigeria. So I think you should have a well-rounded view of what the implications of this trade area will be and what should be our concern. So can you react to the 15 minutes presentation by Mandisa from your own lens? And let's pick it from there. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Femi, and thank you, colleagues. And Mandisa, thank you for making a very difficult subject simple. Okay. I know that our president is one of the last to sign the African Continental Free Trade Agreement. Yes. Indeed, if you want to call the word AfCFTA, it's a bit tongue twisting. So I wouldn't go there because I know it's economics, but I want to look at it from the veterinary point of view and from the fact that we as vets and we as professionals in the animal health field, how can we benefit from this issue? Because the first thing we need to understand is that the world does not wait for anyone. If you decide to slow down and not to move forward, everybody will begin to move and they will leave you behind. And in the world, it's either you join the train, you are dragged along with the train, or the train will cross you along the way. So one of them will have to happen. So in this particular instance, there are quite a lot of opportunity for the veterinarians and for the animal health industry in general, as well as agriculture overall, the agricultural industry, to benefit properly from the African Continental Free Trade Agreement. But it also depends on how we have structured and how we prepared ourselves going forward. For instance, by the time the agreement was first mooted around 2018, between that 2018 and 2021, quite a number of the countries in Africa began to prepare ahead, and they were not waiting for anybody. For example, Ghana, for instance, was able to get the headquarters of AfCFTA to be in Ghana. In the space of that 3 years, the president make a commitment, immediately begin to build a structure for them and tell you, you can bring your headquarters here. We may not know the implication of that, but definitely it will mean that quite a number of the trade agreement that will be done in Africa, we have to pass through Ghana. So that is a benefit to the country. It's like when you look at African Union, IBA, when you look at the headquarters of the African Union, we may take it lightly. But for example, the African Union now, by virtue of it being sited in Ethiopia, 70% of the workforce will be Ethiopian national. If you talk of any other regional or international body, that's the same process. So with regards to animal health, we have to know that this also will come with challenges of health, especially now you have transboundary animal diseases that can move freely between borders. You will have more conflict that will be happening between borders because now you know when the pastoralists move the animal freely, they can move it across the border throughout Africa now. That means you may have increased tendency for conflicts to arise. So these are some of the ways by which we as veterinarians or we in the animal health industry, we need to begin to look at such issue and begin to think of how we will manage these challenges. But at the same time, we also have to think that as people in the animal health industry, how do we benefit? There will be a lot of opportunity. For example, if your cost of production in Nigeria is 50 naira to produce a kilogram of meat. If it's 40 naira in Ghana, that I mean, people from Ghana, we think, oh, I have a benefit of 10 naira extra if I move my meat across to Nigeria. And you will not be able to stop them in view of this African Continental Free Trade Agreement. So it means that we need to become innovative, think of cheaper ways of getting things done, and think of African market where we can export to and get the benefits and the advantage of this. I've got some data which I may share with the organizer of this event, and they may share with all the people. And it's actually originated from one of the books that are being produced for the agric industry in view of this African Continental Free Trade Agreement. I would like to stop at this point to allow room for discussion and for contribution of other colleagues. Thank you.
So thank you, Professor Fashina. And then we look forward to those data. You will still have opportunities during the interactions to share insight on those data. But mixed feelings here and there, right? I'm excited because if you have for us in Nigeria, we're an average of 200 million in our population, and you're serving that population. And then you have an opportunity to serve 1.3 billion, right? If you're an entrepreneur, that's going to be very exciting. But you started off by saying that some will be better prepared. Those people will be better prepared, right? We take, it's a capitalist society, right?
Yes.
Some people will have, I would not want to say more than enough. I will rather want to say that people will have in quantities that they will not be able to consume alone, but also know that the weak ones, the ones that are less prepared, will go out of the market, right? And that's the balance we will need to discuss on when the discussion starts. As the director, AU-IVA, Dr. Nick, you have a vast experience in this whole thing with the policy and with the movement of disease here and there. So you're free to talk on whatever you want to talk on based on your expertise, right? Reacting to Mandisa's initial 15 minutes presentation. After which, as I said, we will pick questions. So what will be your first thought around this topic and what will you advise going forward? Dr. Nick. Okay, you're muted, Dr. Nick.
Okay, can you hear me?
Fantastic, we can.
Yes. So I would like to speak from the perspective of the African Union, what role it has played and what probably IBA is currently doing in relation to that. Now, AU-IBA is the Inter-African Bureau for Animal Resources, and its mandate is to support and coordinate sustainable development and utilization of animal resources to enhance nutrition and food security and contribute to well-being of the African people. So you can see that the work of IBA is mainly to provide leadership and integrated support services for the development of the animal resource industry in Africa. Now, much has been said about the role of livestock in the development of Africa, but I just want to say a few things. 250 million people in Africa depend on livestock for their income and livelihood. So you can see that the animal resources sector is one of the drivers of not only the well-being of the people, but of wealth creation and means of improving food security, which is a major concern for the African Union. And it has been identified as an important contribution to what we normally call the development goals, sustainable development goals. We have Sustainable Development Goal 1 and 2, which one is the elimination of poverty, and then 2 is zero hunger. So definitely if you eliminate poverty, definitely somehow you will reduce or eliminate hunger. Unfortunately, most countries, as was indicated, did not prepare to take this full advantage of the opportunities presented by the animal resources. And of course, we know some of the reasons why. They include high burden of disease. As you know, Africa is the only continent that is burdened with every kind of disease, including zoonosis. We have also weak institutional and human resource capacities, which results in inadequate provision of quality and affordable veterinary services. We have also, as was indicated here, tariff and non-tariff barriers, which militate against movement of goods across borders. We also have low uptake of technologies, which accounts for reduced competitiveness, because when you talk of a market, then you want your product, your local product, whether it is fit to be transported and get the required price. And also we have inadequate public and private partnership investment. And as we know, the private sector drives economic development wherever it is. So the African Union came up with a vision on goals to be achieved by the animal resources sector by the year 2025. And these goals are clearly indicated, and they include, as I indicated, ending hunger by 2025, and making at least 30% of farms, fisheries, livestock resilient to climate and weather related risks. Ensure also that at least 50% of agriculture takes care of 50%, there is 50% of poverty reduction as a result of improved agriculture. And finally, some of the goals, one of the goals mentioned is to ensure that intra-African trade in agricultural commodities and services is tripled by the year 2025. Now, looking at some of these goals indicated, that was where the idea for the African Continental Free Trade Area came up. And it is a flagship project of the African Union Agenda 2063. It was approved by the assemblies of heads of state in Addis Ababa, of course, in January 2012. And as we know, the African Continental Free Trade Area is expected to provide a single market of 1.2 billion people across all the 55 member states. Now, it is not just people, but movement of people and commodities. When we talk of the market, we tend to think of only products, commodities going in, but we have full integration. So the African Continental Trade Area is not just resident in Ghana, but there are elements of it that include intra-African trade, intra-regional trade, and also the Continental Free Trade Area. So it is expected that animals and animals products will be a major component of trading activities in this area. So in December 2019, AU-IBA convened the first forum on accelerated African trade for boosting Africa's trade position in the global animal commodities market. Now, that particular forum discussed a number of issues, amongst which are one, transboundary animal diseases, which I mentioned, compliance with sanitary standards. Certainly, before we start anything, you have to think of standards. And with the different standards across Africa, we have to do something about it, because standards in Nigeria may not be compliant with standards in Ghana, and likewise. And another issue discussed was increasing productive capacity. Now, we are not building an inter-African continental free trade area that is open. If it is open, China will, of course, dump everything, or any of the countries. Not that we are against them. Of course, they are resourceful, but there is a reason for establishing the Continental Free Trade Area. And that is to improve the economies of the African people, to integrate them so that they get to be competitive, not only in their region, in Africa, but also to be competitive on the global market. So now this particular forum convened by IBA set the pace for how livestock is going to be mainstreamed into the recognizable even at international markets, and also raise our scale of production. That will make us competitive. And in doing this, there are many issues. One thing I know for certain is that while we are very excited and moving into this, there are many, many militating factors. A few have been mentioned. Standards, for example, is one. Harmonization is a major issue that we need to look at. For example, harmonization of customs regulations. Custom regulations differ in various places, and you know, animal products mostly are perishable, eggs, milk. For them to move from Nigeria to Ghana or from South Africa to Ghana, you need a seamless regulation that will enable these things to go. So we need harmonization. For example, registration of drugs and vaccines, we need a harmonization system. So we need regulatory harmonization, we need standards, we need to reduce the scale of diseases. For example, transboundary animal diseases. You cannot, for example, in areas where you have FMD, be moving animals to the Continental Free Trade Area. That will be contraindicated. So we need to look at those issues. Those are militating issues, but by and large, the Continental Free Area will improve competitiveness, will increase capacities of the countries, will make them more resourceful. And most importantly, there will be now preference for specialty. So every country will look at those products, those aspects of agriculture that they are specialized in, and will develop more in it, and would rather prefer to buy those from those areas where they are not very competitive. So the Continental Free Area is, to me, a very good idea, but will take time to be fully implemented. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Nick, for your African Union perspective. All right, just a quick note. We, particularly me, shared my link from my email, and I have been reliably informed that that's why a lot of people are coming out with my name. I'm not that popular. I don't want to be deceived. So please, there are two ways out of it. Since you've registered, you can go to your mail and click your own unique link, or perhaps you could also quickly help rename yourself so that we understand that you're there, you're here, and you're also uniquely represented. Now, we're going to take 3 broad questions, and anybody can answer these. So where exactly are we on the trade area agreement? What I mean by that is how many countries have signed. I know Nigeria delayed, as Professor Fashina mentioned. Our president had to rethink the idea. But where are we now? And how long will it take for the implementation to be fully enforced? Anybody can answer this.
Okay.
I can take, oh.
Okay, so let's get Mandisa first, and then
Mandisa.
Professor Fashina comes up next.
Okay, so as we stand, we have 41 countries that have signed the ratification. So signing a ratification, it means that you agree and abide by what the African Continental Free Trade stands for. And I mentioned earlier on that Nigeria took time to sign purely because they had their major internal issues, and it's quite contradicting because Nigeria is such a big economy in contrast to Rwanda, which is a small economy in comparison to Nigeria. But then Nigeria's, argument was that Rwanda has everything to gain. And then it means that if they open themselves up, it means they're opening their economy to broader economies, broader markets for their private sector, etc. And in the Nigerian case, it means that Nigeria is opening itself to dumping, as I've mentioned in my presentation. So where we stand, we've got those economies at this point who have signed the ratification. And there's been a bit of a delay purely because we had COVID and other political issues on standby. But if you're looking at the progress, it's quite promising. On my perspective, it's quite promising, and we've had promising agendas in line even after the free trade. We've had things such as the ECOWAS, the eco-currency in the ECOWAS region, which is a common currency, which obviously also is still in progress. We've had the Cocoa Cartel, which was between, in West Africa, between Ivory Coast and Ghana, them trying to build a cocoa cartel, which is actually aligned with, creating a market for cocoa farmers and, and reducing inequality for their farmers. So I think if everything is done well, we are actually on the right path. But at the same time, we can't eliminate political issues that are at play at the same time. And now that we have a dilemma with the Ukraine-Russia war, which has obviously put things on standby when it comes to food security, it makes all our dreams to be on standby again. So that's my perspective, but I'm open to hear what Professor Fashina has to say about this.
All right, so we will take Professor Fashina, after which we will take BI's perspective on this, especially from Dr. Moses. But I just want us to be carried along on exactly where we are, right? You said 41 out of 55 African countries have ratified it. So that means we still have more countries that have not fully come on board. Professor Fashina, I'll quickly take. Okay,
can I rectify? So it's going to be, at this point, it's going to be 54 instead of 55. Professor Nick will actually rectify me there. One country still needs to be part of the African continent. So please do rectify me. That should be Mauritius, if I'm not mistaken.
Mauritius, yeah.
That is correct.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that shortly. I'm interested in why they've not signed. But Professor Fashina, quickly, then we'll go to Dr. Moses.
Well, thank you. I will also be quick. One thing is, as Mandisa had rightly said, is 54 of the 55 African countries that initially agreed to set up the African Continental Free Trade Agreement. And one of the things that actually prompted this is we found out that we have less than, I think, between 10 and 15% of all the trade is only done from Africa. Most of the other trade come from outside Africa. The implication of that is that we are taking our money and taking it outside the continent, one. Secondly, we are also creating jobs for the outside the continent while we remain with a large burden of unemployment. So that is why this agreement came into force. And I think the first target they set in Africa is to at least see how we can move intra-African trade to at least about 25%. Wherein through that, you will have been reducing the burden of unemployment and creating more opportunities. We have over 3 billion or 3 trillion economy in Africa. Why should we be taking over 90% of it to outside Africa? That was the initial agreement. So one thing is for country to sign the political commitment. Another thing is to deposit your instrument as a country, which means that as a country, fully you've ratified the agreement and you are fully committed to it. So as Mandisa had said, just about 30-something or 40-something country has signed the agreement. The only 36 countries have deposited their instruments, Nigeria being one of them.
Oh,
you know, initially the challenge of not wanting to join is, as she had rightly placed, when you think of, oh, if I join now, my country will become a dumping ground. Almost overwhelm the African market with our products. But for example, as we had now, less than 20% of the Nigerian arable land is even cultivated, leaving the remaining to insurgency and all these things. So these are areas of opportunity for us, and we should be looking at it from that positive point of view and not from the negative point of view. And we as professionals, you see, I've seen a trend that you see that the economists, the lawyers, and the people in the social science field, they tend to benefit more from this type of issue than people in the field of science. Because we from the field of science, most of the time, we look at the narrow perspective of our microscope. We look at the narrow perspective of our animals alone and what we can do locally. Meanwhile, the value chain that supports the business, then the economists will come and take it from you and make extreme wealth from it, while you continue to live in penury within your profession. So we need to move from this primary market focus to begin to think of our international trade. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Fashina, right? And then that was an interesting perspective. Also, the data that followed, it's also very, very insightful. I'm still coming back to that to know exactly what happens if other African countries don't sign up. Will that delay the agreement? Because if we have to wait for everybody to sign up, it means that it might not start very soon. But let's take Dr. Moses Arokoya. He's from the animal health sector. Okay, Dr. Nick, once Dr. Moses is done with his perspective, then we can come back to you. I see that you just raised up your hand. But Dr. Moses Arokoya, let's hear exactly what you think about this and what you will be worried about, your reaction.
Okay, a very good afternoon to everyone. It's good to be part of this discussion. I like the practicality of it, and I'm excited that we have Director Nick with us. I'm going to speak very briefly. Probably I'm going to be a catalyst for the next section coming up because I'm going to, I think I'm going to ask more questions than comments to make. So we are talking about opening up an untapped potential, like we read, of 21.9 trillion US dollars, and of course a GDP of 2.6 trillion. It's very exciting. We are talking about oceans of opportunity, but then it begs a whole lot of questions. I'll be very practical. Take for instance today, if you want to move a container from Apapa port in Nigeria, if you want to move it from the port to the mainland, a distance of about 20 kilometers, it is almost equivalent to moving that same container from Lagos to China, you know. So what will happen when this singular trade market is in place? What will happen is we're going to see a situation where there will be an increase in demand for intercountry haulage. What it also means is that the cost of this would increase. What it also means is that there will be an uneven distribution as it has to do with consumption. What it also means is that real wages, there will be a challenge with that. Now, What that all culminates to is coming back to what Professor Fashina has said. We have a train that is on the move. We either join this train or we be crushed by this train. I see a situation where this market is going to move faster than Nigeria is going to grow. I mean, if you have a market growing faster than your own economy, than your own market, it's not going to be an advantage, it's going to be a problem. And this is what I foresee how, because while other countries since 2018 have begun to prepare, what have we done thus far? What is our readiness? What is our preparedness? Infrastructure-wise, are we there? What have we done? The market will grow faster if we are not well prepared, if we are not developing. Secondly, according to studies, agriculture and manufacturing is supposed to contribute 73% volume of trade to this singular market. How ready are we in this regard? In agriculture, in manufacturing, what are we exactly going to contribute as a country in the region and also particularly as a nation, Nigeria? Now, speaking as a veterinarian, we are struggling with disease surveillance and monitoring. We have not been able to, to have a grasp on this in the country. We have not been able to say, oh, we have a solid surveillance and monitoring system, and we are about to open up. What is going to happen? Harmonization of biosecurity, what is going to happen to that? I mean, other countries, I know we have the UMR, where we have, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. We have countries like Cameroon, like Senegal. Once you register a singular product in Cameroon, that product can get into Senegal and some surrounding countries without registration. I mean, what are we doing with regards to that? I'm speaking to regulations now, regulatory. What are we doing with regards to this? Transboundary disease. We are talking AI, for instance, avian influenza. There is no, we can say this is where we stand as far as vaccination is concerned, and we're going to open ourselves up to, movement of animals. Just this week, we have an inmate in Colorado die of avian influenza. That's a human, an individual that we have moved from animal in the US now. US was never interested in AI vaccination. Today, they are at the table, they are talking about it. Just last week now, somebody have died out of, as a result of avian influenza. We are debating, we are no vaccination, people are vaccinating under the table, and then we are going to go to this singular 1.2 billion, 54 country market. How ready are we? So if we look at it from the angle of our policies, our regulatory, our transboundary, harmonization, we are not ready. I want to be bold to speak truth to power. We are not ready. We are not moving, infrastructure-wise, like we are ready for this market. We are the 34th country to sign. Since signing, what have we done thus far? Have we harmonized anything? Have we put, according to the Center for Study of Economics of Africa, the CC Study Center, they have said that 60% of the Nigerian businesses are not even aware of this trade center. 60%. So no enlightenment. And this is also part of preparation. I don't want to take so much of our time, but I just think that as a nation, we have 0.005% veterinary. Since signing, what have we done thus far? Have we harmonized anything? Have we put, according to the Center for Study of Economics of Africa, the CC Study Center, they have said that 60% of the Nigerian businesses are not even aware of this trade center. 60%. So no enlightenment. And this is also part of preparation. I don't want to take so much of our time, but I just think that as a nation, we have 0.005% veterinarians in Nigeria today, 0.005% of veterinarians who will monitor these animals, who will do the necessary check. It's time to get practical, like Professor Fashina said, the train will move whether we like it or not. We just have to find a way to be prepared in terms of infrastructure, regulatory harmonization. Is there going to be a harmonized biosecurity system Are we going to put that in place? It's very key, it's very important. If agriculture, manufacturing is going to contribute 73% volume by trade to this center, I think veterinarians, we need more employment, and I mean, the list is endless. But from my side, ocean of opportunity, preparedness, not adequate enough. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much for asking more questions, Dr. Moses. All right, and those questions are very thoughtful, and I'm sure will provoke a lot of reactions shortly. Because of our time, I would just want us to really hit on the point for the next segment so that we can take more thoughts. But the first thing I want to drop on the table for every one of us to make comments on, it's so how should the individual vet or the individual country be thinking? People have already signed, more than 50% have signed. There needs to be like a thinking pattern for people who will want to make maximum use of this opportunity. I'm going to start from Dr. Nick. I know you have a thought to share previously. You could start with that thought, and you could also climax on how should the veterinarian on this call be thinking, but more importantly, how should a country amidst these 54 that are signed be thinking to be able to take advantage of the opportunity? I'm going to ask us all across board, but please let your answer be brief and short so that I can take a lot of people that will want to say something regarding this. Go ahead, Dr. Nick.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kayode. Quite a number of people have indicated that we have not, we signed, but we are not ready. Now, just to say that the Continental Free Trade Area has not started, has not fully, not that it has not started, but it has not fully taken off. And it is not a one-boss affair. It cuts across all the value chains, all the different aspects, as one of our colleagues mentioned. So why don't we look at areas where we have already advanced? For example, Obasanjo Farm supplies chicks, day-old chicks, to all the West African sub-region. Why don't we start in areas like that? In poultry, can't we develop the poultry industry to a point whereby we can supply chickens to not just the CFTA, but also to neighboring countries? Since this CFTA has come into play, it is an opportunity for Nigeria not only to take our products to Ghana, but to take our products to neighboring countries, to as far east and as far south. So we can capitalize on this, look at our comparative advantages in the different areas where we are more superior. For example, eggs. Eggs are another commodity we can think of, we can capitalize on. While we think now with the people with muscle, this is the time to look at the industry. But I must say this also, it surely does not rest all on the individuals. The government has a role to play also. The government has to prop some of the aspects of production for it to be sustainable. For example, in regulation, now we said that, for example, if we open up, we're opening up our borders to dumping. No, it is not correct. The reason is that there are tariffs. These tariffs are not automatically removed and your door open. Certainly, you will put on some degree of tariffs for things you have, for things you produce, and you will eliminate tariffs for those you don't have. Most cases, it will be a bilateral agreement between you and the country. You sign an MOU on what you can produce, what you can give to him, and what he can give to you. But with the free trade area, yes, the tariffs are there, but there are non-tariff barriers that can be imposed to, for example, the customs union. You can capitalize on that and restrict some of the products from coming in while you allow those that you have advantage to. Now, this is just to say that we are not truly ready, but no African country is completely ready at this time. So we may be at a better advantage to go. For example, Moses raised the question of harmonization. Harmonization, for example, in the Waimo region, they register, they have one central registration system, which registers every vaccine or every drug, while the others, we don't. Now, just know that we have now been successfully able to establish the mutual recognition system in the East African region. This was a project carried out by AU-PANVAC with the support of government. Now, what happens is that this particular process has been now exported to South Africa. Now, in 2010, in a meeting of the OIE, it was clearly highlighted that Africa is suffering from substandard drugs and vaccines. So AU-PANVAC and government were given the mandate to bring up a harmonization process for the entire continent. That process took off, and by 2013, the East African region was harmonized. Now, this was now exported to South Africa, and now SADC came up and said, well, we were sleeping. So they requested that it be brought to them back again. And I'm glad to say that just in the last few days, not even few weeks, a meeting on harmonization took place in Pretoria, South Africa. So the intention is to expand it. AU-IBA is supporting AU-PANVAC to galvanize this harmonization to other parts of Africa. Now, the single registration system, as you indicated, is very poor, is not efficient. One, it denies countries capacity to be independent, to have their own system. It denies the country individuals to employ people. But with the harmonization system now, what happens is that when you bring your vaccines or drug, you take it to a particular country, which is the concerned country. For example, you take it to Uganda. Uganda now circulates the dossier among all the members and come and submit. When the drug is passed or vaccine and a certificate issued to you, you can now automatically take your drug to any country. All you need to do is go to the country, the customs authority, and pay the required fees. So you are now registered in all. So AU-PANVAC is driving this, and we had a meeting with all the regulatory authorities in Africa, including the WAEMU region. They are receptive to the fact that they will harmonize. And this year we will take up that. If it happens, it will be one of the biggest successes. So I'm just telling you one aspect that we have been working on, but other aspects too, people will have to continue and do whatever best you can in your area. And hopefully we will see how it progresses. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Nick. I think one of the important points you've mentioned at the beginning is that we should start from what we're strong at. And also thank you for sharing also what you're doing. Very quickly, Mandisa, how should we be thinking? We're all stakeholders in this, right? How should we position as a person? Majority of the people here are veterinarians. We also have non-vets. How should we be thinking as a nation and as an individual? We're running out of time, so if you do this quickly, I can take more thoughts.
Oh, sorry, I was muted there. I think you were cutting at the beginning. But, you know, from a private sector perspective, I think it's always better to try and actually tap into larger markets. And as a consumer, it's always better to acknowledge the fact that having a larger market or having an access to larger market, it means a decrease in price of any commodity or product that you want to buy. And this is one of the reasons why we have this free trade area, is that we want to have reduced cost for everyone. So, you know, and that's basically it on my end. It's acknowledging the fact that government needs to acknowledge this, private sector needs to acknowledge this, community or the consumer needs to acknowledge the fact that this is actually a large market for the benefit of the African continent. As Professor Fashina was saying that earlier on, that why would we want to spend money that's inside the continent outside the continent? and that's it.
So I think that's a very strong way of ending that remark, because again, the question, very striking, why we want to spend that much money outside. So for every one of us listening, I think one of the things we're doing in Farmalert is to draw people's attention to what's about to happen. You know, in our sessions, we usually have up to 200. And when I was asking my team, why hasn't a lot of people registered? You know, people really didn't understand the agreement. But it's a powerful thing that's coming. And the better we're prepared and positioned to take advantage of what will eventually happen, I think the better for us. Dr. Fashino, do you express any fear? I want to quickly, before you make a comment, I want to acknowledge the presence of Dr. Gani. He was the Chancellor for Africa, World Veterinary Association, now also a part of the African Veterinary Association and a member of the Veterinary Council Board. I also see Professor Magaji Abdullahi, a member of the Veterinary Council Board. I also see Professor Matthew Adamu, a member of the Veterinary Council Board. These are very strong people in charge of policy making in Nigeria. Then the Director of Veterinary Services, Lagos State, Dr. Macaulay. I also see you here. And of course, an elder statesman, Dr. Charles Ibe, one-time president of the Nigerian Veterinary Medical Association, also a one-time member of the Veterinary Council Board, and a very strong member of the veterinary body in Nigeria. So again, if I cannot acknowledge you, maybe you're still bearing my name, you can please do well and name yourself and then put the right thing. Professor Fashino, are you expressing any fear?
Thank you. I'll just speak specifically and practically to some of these issues. One, as people in the animal health industry, we can begin to look at the whole value chain along this transboundary route. For example, the whole routes have been mapped in Africa, and this map are freely available online now. We can begin to look at these routes and see how do we plug in as vets. For example, in this value chain, where are the necessary points where veterinarians can profit or where animal health professionals can profit? For example, you're talking in terms of drug distribution in form of this distribution of even meat products, egg, and things like that. I can give a quick example. About 2019 in Tanzania, they did a first shipment of avocado to South Africa, and the avocado was destroyed in South Africa because they claimed that there was some fungal infection on the avocado. And the Tanzanian government decided, no, we will not take this lie low. They discussed with FAO, and we set up a system wherein they can get standardization. And over a period of 2-3 years, they improved their standards. And I tell you that as of today, just yesterday, they shared the news on their website that Tanzania is not only exporting avocado to other countries in Africa now. They just did their first shipment to Southeast Asia. They did their first shipment to Middle East. So that means they are expanding their market and they are bringing in more opportunities for them. And they also import or export a lot of other things to Canada and to a number of other countries. So this is what we need to begin to look at. One, we can think of the one-stop border post. This is already operational in East Africa. Between the different East African countries now, they are creating one-stop border post, wherein between Tanzania, Kenya, they have a one-stop border post at Namanga, wherein they have this joint effort, and they bring in animal health professional. We have visited such posts. We see animal health professional side by side who do testing there and all those things. In some of these testing, the government don't have enough capacity because they don't have enough workforce to do this. We can begin to take subcontracting job from the government as veterinarian in plugging into this and say, oh, government, can we do this on your behalf and deliver results for you? All that we need from us is standards, as have been mentioned, and quality. You can talk about the issue of effort to improve ourselves in terms of standards. If you want to plug into this, you need to maintain standard that is acceptable across board, as Dr. Nick Nwankwa has said. And I want to acknowledge actually the good work that AU IBA has been doing along this line. And I hope that we can really push it forward to make sure that we as Africans benefit from this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. I think if there's something you've brought up is a consciousness of what we're doing and what we need to do. I would just want to take 30 seconds from two persons, then I'll ask every of the panel to state just one last thing for one minute as a way of summarizing. Dr. Ghanaian Nahoro, I want to just quickly take 30 seconds to add your voice. You've been in the world stage. Where do you see this going? I'm going to call Dr. Ghanaian Nahoro. I'm going to call Dr. Charles Ibe to just make 30 seconds opinion on what they think about this agreement. And of course, I will now take all the panel 1 minute, last 1 minute of summary of what, if there's just one take home, what will you want everybody to take? So let's go with Dr. Gani and Nahoro first. He was one time Chancellor for Africa World Veterinary Association. Dr. Gani and Nahoro. All right, if he's not coming up, I think, oh, so I think we need to ask to unmute him. Okay, go ahead. You've been enabled. If we can't get him, then I think we should just quickly take Dr. Charles. Yes, Dr. Charles, 30 seconds.
Yeah, thank you for this information advocacy.
Hello.
Okay, Dr. Gani, if you just allow Dr. Charles quickly talk, then we'll get you in. Just 30 seconds.
Okay.
Dr. Charles, go
All
ahead.
right, thank you.
Yeah, he is Kayode Femi, so maybe he thought he's branded Kayode Femi today. Anyway,
But I can see his picture. Go ahead, Doctor.
Anyway, this advocacy is a strong one, and to enable us. I always believe in breaking out, to achieve much. You cannot be an indoor person and get an outdoor blessing. That is one cardinal thing I always talk when I'm enabled or when I have opportunity to talk on entrepreneurship. We need to break out. You can see somebody in in Semeboda going to Kano to look for a job. Meanwhile, Benin Republic is just down the line, open. So it's a matter of, fertilizing the mind and fertilizing the brain. When this thing comes on board, we have a lot to be entertained and a lot to gain in order to improve our strategies towards achieving our life goals. The world has broken up into pieces. With digitalization, you think you are locally, but you should be thinking globally. With digitalization, because the world is not a global village. The world is flattened out. It's no more round. It has been flattened and constricted and congested as one. But the only thing we need to be thinking about is the regulatory response to all those things. And then where standardization comes, you cannot be throwing out a negative service to your environment, to your neighbors. They won't accept it. And then it gives room for competition. We can compete. What is in Morocco, in South Africa, or wherever we cannot compete positively with, unless we are dullards, unless we are imbeciles. So I always think strong, with a very strong drive, as an irrevocable phenomenon, an irrevocable decision, will be able to have the grip of what is going on. It is at this point in the world order. It's not meant for lousy or lazy folks.
You're right.
That is the thing. The world order now is so competitive that you need to be in the line with the world order and not as a dullard. And that is where I rest my case. So that whenever we are getting these principles in our mind, in our mindsets, we should have a strong drive.
Thank you, Dr. Charles. There's actually a book that's saying that the world is flat. Regardless of where you are on the table, if you can think smart, these days, I think you will be able to bring down Goliath. Thank you so much for that insight. Let's take Dr. Gani quickly. and then we'll go to all our panelists to say their final thoughts on this. But of course, to warn all of us that the agreement, whether we want it or not, it's coming, and the better prepared we are, the more we can take advantage of it. Dr. Gani Nahoro, do we now have you? Dr. Gani Nahoro.
He's still Femi Kayode.
But again, I think I can spot his picture, so
call him Femi Kayode, he might answer you.
I will consider that after the meeting. All right, so while he's trying to find a very good position, let's come to Dr. Moses. 1 minute, right? So we are 1 minute. What we want to say, we are going to climax at Mandisa's desk. So we'll take Dr. Moses, we'll take Professor Fashino, we'll take Dr. Nick, and then we'll take Mandisa itself. What we want to say to Ross and all veterinarians listening and people in the animal health industry. Go ahead.
Okay, change is coming. I think summarily this is this is obvious. Things are not going to remain the same. So the Continental Trade Agreement is obviously coming. It's been signed. IBA is in place. Meetings are holding. Implementation is already on, as it were, to see it come to reality. I think the positives outweigh the negatives, as it were. And this is the take home. And one thing from my side is, as we look forward to having this come to be our normal life, as it were, to bring the benefits, I think it's time to take the discussion to the next level as far as One Health is concerned. I think this will be my closing words. One Health becomes a topic that can no longer be ignored. I mean, with this, we're talking 1.2 billion people. We're talking 54 countries crisscrossing. I mean, One Health, we're talking animals, we're talking humans. COVID have taught us a lot of lessons. We cannot underplay or, overemphasize the import of what this means, having 1.2 billion people with their animals coming together. So for me, my closing words to those who are involved in policy at the level of decision, those of us who have voices to speak to those at the level of decision, please help us cry or say it a bit louder. One Health, One Health, One Health has become a huge priority as far as Africa is concerned. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. One Health, One Africa. I think we should also add that because that will make us one. Professor Fashino, there's a final word from you. What should it be and what we want to say?
Yeah, thank you. It's like Dr. Arokoyo tried to snatch up my point and deliver it. You know, One Health, One Medicine, one, and everybody is trying to belong to One Health. And indeed, now we have one welfare. I tell you, even the engineers are coming with one urbanization and all those things. So if you don't get serious with the issue of One Health as a leader in that field, they will push you aside. And I tell you for sure, some other people will take it away from you. Indeed, now one of the major United Nations cardinal points now is that across every UN agency, you must have marker for One Health. So if you, and it's happening. If you go online now to any of the UN websites, one of the most advertised positions is in the area of zoonosis, in the area of One Health, is in the area of dosing. And this is team across WHO, FAO, UNEP, every other agency. And so for us as professionals, my own point would be, as Femi had rightly noted, a lot of people are not here because possibly they don't know the benefits of this African continental free trade. We need to begin to preach this to our colleagues. We talk of a lot of opportunities coming in with this, opportunity for job, opportunity for engagement, opportunity for cross-sectoral collaboration, an opportunity to actually expand your market. And this one, if you think you are not tuned to economics and marketing, align with people like Dr. Ibe, Dr. Enauro, and those people who have been in the field of business, who dump the syringes and needle for businesses. They will teach you. and you can benefit from it. I will think that indeed this type of a talk is something you should arrange for our younger colleagues in the university and those who will just be graduating to be able to know that graduation is not about beginning to look for job all over the place, but about thinking of how you can become employer of labor and creating opportunity for others. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Fashina. And for us in Farmalert, we really think about that because the future will, of course, catch up with them shortly as young vets. And if they are not better prepared and listen to your advice, then that would be really unfortunate. Dr. Nick Nwapa from the African Union, please, your last comment. Okay, you're muted.
Thank you.
All right, good.
Yes, a lot have been said about preparedness. It's never too late to prepare. But one thing I would like to emphasize here, as I said, the government cannot do, the government is not left out of responsibility. It has to contribute its part. But we on our own should consider one thing which is very important: public-private partnership. The public sector drives economic development wherever they are. So we should now look at possibilities of engaging with the government, providing the muscle and dragging the government along. They will provide the protection, the regulation, and for you to move in. And also for our vets. There are too many areas within the value chain where we can plug in. Now we are only focusing our attention at the Continental Free Trade Area in Ghana, but we are now not looking at collaborations between countries and regional collaborations. And moreover, what happens after all the veterinarians now start supplying all those markets? What about the people in the country? Who is going to feed them? That is another market developing. So as the continental market builds standards for exotic things, definitely local people too will have their taste improve and their resources will improve. So we should think of building these areas from all sectors. We should not only consider producing, we should consider importing from other countries that have comparative advantage. So it's a two-way thing. While you're looking at things to improve and export, you should be looking at other countries. For example, Fashina talked about avocado in Tanzania. If you feel we don't have good avocados in Nigeria, you can source for market there and start importing them into Nigeria instead of allowing it to go outside the continent. So we can take advantage of all we have. Public-private partnership is going to support this particular agenda. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Nick. The strong point you raised is we should focus on our strength and also use other people's strength to complement our weaknesses. So I'm just wondering how we Africans will learn that basic lessons. If we learn that, then we'll focus on supporting each other and growing as one. And that will be one of the good things the AfCFTA agreement will help us achieve. All right, we started with you, Mandisa, and we're going to also climax on your decks. What we have to say?
I really love what Dr. Nick said about private and public cooperation, and it's very important. When it comes to the African continent, we can't deny the fact that we do need the public sector. And as much as we have negative views on how they implement, development policies and things like that, but we need them, right? We need them to protect us as citizens, as Africans, and things like that. And earlier on, I mentioned things such as, the ECOWAS, the eco-currency rather, and the cocoa cartel in in the West African region. And I really think that we really have a good thing going in Africa, and more especially in Central and Western region. We really do, because it seems as if those two regions, they seem to give us, how can I say this? They seem to make headlines, whether it's a bad way or in a good way. And I really think now is the best time for them to make headlines in a good way. And that's my closing.
Fantastic. Fantastic, Mandisa. Thank you so much for this. I'm not supposed to do this, but Professor Matthew, I've just been hinted that you want to really say something. Just in 30 seconds, Professor Matthew, you can say something quickly. Then we'll ask Adora to just take us through the closing remarks. Professor Matthew, go ahead.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kayode, and the team. Really been very rewarding being here, listening to my very good friend, Professor Fashina. We're all at OP together. The truth is that the Veterinary Council of Nigeria, as part of our strategic plan, we felt that we need to have a regional integration process starting from the region of ECOWAS first. And part of that process, we engaged Dr. Iwa, who works with ECOWAS. We had some discussions with her on how we can have integration first within the ECOWAS sub-region, just as SADC is doing, just as the guys in East Africa are working on first, even the issue of regulatory agencies as far as the Veterinary Council is concerned. If we have a West African region having, same regulatory body, it allows free flow of personnel from Nigeria to all other parts of West Africa, and the same way from other West African countries into our own region too. That process will give us a lot of opportunities, will open up, and young people will begin to move across border to get good opportunities. It's a very good topic, and it's something that we need to sit back and look at critically so that we can tap into this African free trade. Yes. We have had such policies even in the past that give African countries opportunity to hit into the American markets, but we have not been able to do it as Africans, because standard is one thing you must do if you must take products across any border. No one will allow you bring in things into his country, whether they be plant or animal products without standards. We produce a lot of yams, for instance, in this country where I stay in Makurdi, but for it to get into the international market is a big problem because of what? Because of standardization. So I want to commend Farmalert for the very wonderful job you are doing, trying to stimulate our interest in looking at markets beyond the shores of Nigeria and looking at other parts of Africa. And I want to congratulate our brothers who are doing excellently well out there representing us. Dr. Nick, Professor Fashina, thumbs up. Keep the flag flying. We're all proud of you for the good job you are doing. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Professor Matthew, also an elected member of the Veterinary Council Board, very strong in the veterinary teaching hospital in Makurdi as the veterinary director. All right, so with this, I want to just hand over to Adora to thank our hub experts and then, of course, take us through the closing formalities. Thank you so much, Adora.
Sure, thank you so much. I don't even know what to say. This has been such a rich conversation. For someone like me who is listening, I'm just like, wow. Thank you to all the experts. We cannot thank you enough. Thank you for sharing from your training, but very importantly, from the work that you are doing. We truly appreciate it. We hope that we would have many more conversations like this. One thing that struck me is One Health, One Africa. Why not build our own continent, right? So we're very excited that this happened, and we look forward to having many more conversations. We have our post quiz, so we're going to very quickly try to launch that so that as many people as are on the call can just respond from this rich conversation. I'm expecting everybody to have we're expecting 100% of the right answer. So we'll quickly just launch the post quiz so that people get a chance to answer the questions. There are just 5 questions, and I can even answer all of them. Now, initially, I wasn't sure I could, but now I think I can. So please feel free to answer the questions and submit your answers. Thank you to all our panelists. Thank you so much. We will be sharing the slides in PDF format to everyone who attended. I know that we have some of our colleagues who couldn't attend for one reason or another. We would share this the material so that you can feel free to also share them with your colleagues. It's a rich conversation. It's something we need to start having. It's going to happen whether we like it or not. Like Dr. Femi said, it's going to happen. So the earlier we prepare and fortify ourselves to ensure that Africa moves forward, especially when it comes to animal health, the better we are for it. Okay, so I see some people have answered the questions. We would like more answers. Please go ahead. Just 5 questions. Again, nobody is going to penalize anyone. And the goal is just so that we can ensure that we're taking away learnings from the session. So please feel free to answer. We have about 2 more minutes. So we would encourage everyone to quickly answer the questions so that we can give out what the correct answers are, and we can close. We're trying to make sure that we respect your time so that when we invite you, you come again. Yes, I agree. Kemi, I agree. The panelists performed excellently. At some point, I was like, should I start taking notes? I was trying to type some things, but it was a lot and it was rich. Thank you so much to all our panelists. Okay, so we still have a number of people who haven't answered. Please feel free to. We have 1 more minute before we close the polls. Please. Yes, Dr. Femi, we have your details. So we'll send the information to you. I think Dr. Kemi, I beg your pardon. We have your information, your email address. We'll also copy this one and we will send you the resources. Okay, we will be closing the polls in another 30 seconds. So please feel free to answer the questions. Thirty seconds. Right, okay, so we've closed the polls. I will just quickly read the questions and then we'll have Dr. Kaide who will be responding. Do we have Mandisa?
Yes, I will.
Okay, great. So the first is, with your knowledge of AfCFTA, which of the following do you think makes this project important in Africa? Creation of jobs to only a select set of people, elimination of import duties, cause a downfall in intra-Africa trade. Which of them?
Okay, so elimination of import duties.
Great. So we had 57% of the people pick that option. Wonderful. Which of the following is a condition for the success of AfCFTA? New economic policies to be created, removal of tariffs, closing down the channels with existing RECs.
So we have both number one and number two as also being correct. New economic policies needs to be created, and then of course removal of tariffs.
Perfect. So we have 100% of the people actually picking either of the two. Considering your current challenges in Africa, which of the following do you think the introduction of AfCFTA will tackle? Increased interaction within African farmers, reduced market for farm inputs and agricultural produce, destruction in the value chain of neighboring countries.
All right, so I think A, increased interaction within African farmers because of the AfCFTA agreements.
Great, 100% of the people picked that option. 4, the creation of AfCFTA will play a major role in complementing African states' efforts in creating greater market opportunities. True or false?
The answer is of course true.
Yes, 100% of the people thought so as well. The AfCFTA gives an opportunity for producers to increase livestock production and productivity and create more jobs, especially for women and youth. True or false?
Just wondering, if I say false, will you start the presentation again? No, the answer is true, Adora. True.
Yes, true. 100% of the people felt the same way. I'm very excited about the production and productivity piece, as well as creating jobs, especially for women and youth. So thank you so much for everyone who answered the quiz. Well done. We hope that next time we'll have more people answer the quiz, but well done. Well done, well done. Okay. So thanks everyone. Just to give us some announcements, we have some upcoming events. On the 7th of May, which is 2 days from now on Saturday at 2 p.m. West African time, we'll be having another session, and it is tagged Veterinary Resilience, Leading Through Crisis. We would love for you to join this. It's a leadership series. And so the hub expert to be the president of the Veterinary Council of Nigeria. So we would be excited to have you join. This is going to be an exciting one. There's nothing more than being prepared and kind of understanding what to do, especially during crisis. So this would be an interesting one for us to join. So make it a date with us, May 7th, 2 p.m. West African time. Yes, this is an important piece for us. We want to make sure that as we do these sessions, we are speaking on topics that are very relevant to the work that you do. Topics where you want capacity building, and topics where you would also like to know what the best practices, what the recent research is saying. So please type in the chats, if you may, topics that you would like us to address. We take these topics together and we're able to create possibly a series that tends to this topic. So please feel free to type in the chat any topic that you would like us to address during these sessions. Remember, we are intentional about using case-based presentations to be able to drive the capacity building or the learnings home. So please type in the chat the different topics that you would like us to address. We will be taking those. We have members of the team on the chat who will be extracting this information, and we will be able to walk around them. So please kindly feel free. And also hub experts, if there are other topics that you think we should also be discussing on, it would be great to have you put them in the chat as well, our dear hub experts, so that because you are in the field, you have the experience, you have the expertise, and if there are areas from your work that you're seeing that we need to strengthen our capacity in, we will be happy to have you share those topics as well. Okay. Okay, so follow us on our social media handles. We're on YouTube, we're on LinkedIn, we're on Facebook, we're on Instagram. Please feel free, just search for Farmalert. And please follow us. We put out these resources on our pages. We put out these resources on our YouTube channel so that you have a chance to go back, or you can refer your colleagues and people within your network to follow us. So please feel free. You can take a screenshot of this particular page so that you can find us on LinkedIn, on YouTube, on Facebook, on Instagram.